Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Yoakum, and I'm here to introduce you to PhysioEx 10. How do you gain access to the material? And then we'll do a practice activity to show you how that is done. So, and again, if you ever have questions, always please email me. First things first, and it's Y-O-C-U-M, Yoakum, K at gtc.edu. So when you go to your Blackboard, you'll see the lab information tab there. And when you click that, it'll open up several different PhysioEx activities, which you'll also find under your course documents. But the key here to get you started is a little PDF document that you can read through. It has the Pearson store link, so you can click that. It'll take you right to the Pearson store. I'll show you that in just a second. The other thing that you're going to want to do is decide whether you're going to purchase it from the Gateway bookstore, which I believe they have these in stock, or again, if you go directly to the Pearson website, you're going to want to make sure you get the access card package. You do not want just the print paperback. You're going to get the paperback as well as the access card to be able to perform the PhysioEx labs from home. So it's only an extra $10 to be able to access those virtual labs. So again, make sure that you attain that. Now, when you go to your lab information tab in Blackboard, you'll see the PhysioEx student guide. If I click the PDF, it'll open up and go through a couple of very basic items to get you started. And again, there right away is that Pearson store access. So click that. And then once you're at the Pearson store, you're going to want to click and choose your format. And it'll bring up the PhysioEx with access card package. So click that. Again, if you're ordering through Pearson, and there you go, add to cart, and they ship extremely fast. So you would probably receive that in a couple of days after ordering. So the next thing I want to do is go through, once you receive that PhysioEx with access code, you're going to get something that looks like this. It will be in shrink wrap. When you open up the wrap, you're going to find an access card with a code inside. I've opened mine already and scratched off the code. Now from there, so I'm going to walk you through. I haven't put my code in yet or registered it, so it's brand new in that respect. PhysioEx isn't brand new. I've been using it for many years. So it tells us in the card to go to PhysioEx.com, and that'll take us to a screen that looks like this. And then in the card, it says click register. And it'll ask you some policy information. Do you have a Pearson education account? You probably don't. So, but really all they're looking for is for you to enter this access code. So, so I'm going to do that. I don't know if it's case sensitive. It looks like everything in here is uppercase. So, and it looks like it's all letters. So if you do have something that does look like, is it a 0? Is it an O? It's likely going to be an O. So again, it does appear that all of these are letters. And I do have several O's, it looks like. So S-E-V-W. All right, so let's try that. Click next. Follow, you have not selected O. Do you have Pearson Educate? I do, but I don't know. I'm going to hit yes. No, I'm going to hit no. Because then it's going to, then it wants me to create a login name. Oh boy. Hey, open. Oops. I still have caps lock on, so let's go through that. 444. Let's try that out. School. So it's going to have you, assuming you don't have an account, it's going to have you create a Pearson account. So PhysioEx, you now have access to PhysioEx. So log in now. So I click log in now, and it's going to take me to PhysioEx 10.0, and there it is. So that is what should pop up once you enter your code. And then from here, you're going to be able to access all of the PhysioEx activities. I'm not going to have you perform every single one. You'll be glad to know. So make sure when you go into your course units, your competencies, you have 12 competencies that will go through together. And there will be a few activities associated with those competencies. So you're not going to be required to do all of the activities again. In Blackboard too, you're going to find a drop box for your PhysioEx activities. So we'll go through that as well together in a different video. So you'll be submitting review sheets for me associated with the activities that you do. You don't necessarily need to provide me with your results from these exercises. The review activities that you'll do, the review questions that you'll submit to me will relate to your results or your data. So anyway, you're going to want to go through these activities that are required. And you're going to want to use your book as a guide as well. The book is very clear. A lot of the answers that for definitions and other concepts, you'll find within the lab manual. So anyway, let's go through an activity so you can see what this looks like. So we're going to do exercise 1, activity 1 on simple diffusion. We may do this one together, or you may do this. We're going to do it together now, but you may be required to do this as an assignment when we get to self-transport mechanisms. So anyway, click the activity. Okay, and it'll open up the, it'll have some information, some lab information. You can see there's a next button, so it has some objectives. All of these will look the same throughout. So we're going to have an objectives area, tells us why are we doing this, and what are we going to gain at the end. And again, there's always a reset button if things get a little hairy, but again, these do align with what's in your PhysioEx manual. So if you were to open up to activity 1, exercise 1, activity 1, we would see a similar thing going on. So make sure that you do these virtual labs along and follow it along in the manual. And take notes right in your manual or on another sheet of paper. So anyway, hit next once you're ready. And again, it gives you an introduction, kind of a Cliff Notes version on here of what's in the book. But again, the book is full of tremendous information that will assist you and allow you to perform these activities. So anyway, when you get to activity 1, you're going to see basically the same verbiage in the introductory information. So tells you a little bit about what to expect in the actual experiment, but it also gives you some basics regarding some of the principles that you're going to be analyzing. So anyhow, it's going to ask you a couple of pre-lab questions. I'm going to check the book and see if it's the same. Yeah, it looks like they're similar. Again, maybe slightly different than what you would find in the book. So anyway, the driving force for diffusion. So ATP. So again, with diffusion, we don't need any ATP. Kinetic energy of the motion of the molecules. Membrane transport proteins, they are involved a little bit. The dialysis membrane, we're going to go with kinetic energy of the molecules. So anyway, in diffusion, molecules are going to move from high concentration to low concentration. They move from big groups to where there are smaller groups. And then what you're going to be doing is creating a membrane simulation. You're going to have simulated membranes that are going to have different pore sizes in those. And the smaller the number, the smaller the pore size. So only small molecules are going to be able to pass through the 20 molecular weight cutoff, is what that means, which it discusses in your book. And then the 200 molecular weight cutoff would be very large pore size. We would be able to see larger molecules pass through there. So anyhow, you've completed the pre-lab quiz. Click submit and proceed with the experiment. So I would do that. Click submit. And then from there, you're starting the experiment. It goes through and tells you what to do. It's very straightforward. Drag the 20 MWCO between the beakers. So we do that, and then there's a next button down at the bottom. And then it says we want to increase the sodium chloride dispensed to the left beaker by 9 millimolar. So NaCl. So we come down here, we notice we have NaCl, urea, albumin, and glucose. This first activity goes through simple diffusion, and it wants us to start with 9 millimoles of sodium chloride or table salt in water. So we have a solution. So the solute is the sodium chloride, the solvent is the water. That gives us a 9 millimolar solution. So we clicked, brought it up to 9 with the plus, click dispense, and then we want to hit next. And then, and again, it says note what the concentration is in that beaker. And then let's see, select deionized water and select dispense in the right beaker. So we're going to do that and then click next. After you start the run, the barrier between the beakers will descend. So notice we do have a barrier here in brown. That's going to pull out of there, and then we're going to see which direction is the sodium chloride going to go, if any. And again, we know from diffusion that solutes are going to move from high concentration to low concentration. Notice we have 0 over here. So if the pore size is large enough in this membrane, then we will see sodium chloride movement till we reach what we call equilibrium. So if we have 9, we're going to ideally see 4.5 on one side and 4.5 on the other. If the pore size is too small, we're not going to get any movement of the solute. So anyhow, we've got a timer. It's automatically set at 60. Of course, it's a virtual lab. We don't have to sit here for 60 minutes and wait. So we hit start. We release the membrane cover, and now we have just 2 sides coming together, and the only thing separating is a membrane, and we see that there's no diffusion of sodium chloride from high to low. So what that tells us is we may have pore size that's just too small. So There's another thing you're going to want to do every time you hit start in PhysioEx. It'll run a little couple of seconds, and then it'll give you data. You want to come down here and click record data. And what that does is it gives you a little table. So anyhow, we want to remember to hit record data. So then we did all that, hit next, and it guides you to, it says select record data. So we just did that. And then we're going to hit next. And then it's going to ask us a stop and think question. The reason sodium chloride didn't diffuse, we said probably the pore size is too small. So let's see if that is in and correct, and then submit. Now, if you do get, we'll answer one wrong here in a second. It's not a big deal. If you answer something incorrectly, again, the idea is to learn from that and apply it as you move forward. You're not getting graded on the results of your experiment. You're getting graded on performing the experiment and the activity, and then writing out or typing out and submitting answers to some review questions. So that's really the goal and the focus. So anyway, now it tells us to flush both beakers. Hit next. Molecular weight of urea is 60.07. So is that going to pass through 20? No, 60 is way too high, so probably not. So, but just in case we're wrong, they're going to have us do a urea batch here. So let's pump up the urea over there, and then it's hit next. It's going to tell us to do the deionized water in the right beaker. So we'll dispense that, and we're going to do the same thing. Notice the clock's at 60. We hit the start button and see if any urea is going to move to the side. And notice concentration doesn't change. If there was movement, we would actually see these numbers changing. So it does tell us no diffusion. And again, you want to click record data. All right, next, and next. Record data, we did. All right, so now it's going to tell us to drag this over to the cabinet. Hit next. Okay, glucose, 6-carbon sugar. Albumin is a protein with 607 amino acids. The molecular weight of a single amino acid is 135 grams per mole. So basically what it's saying is the molecular weight of albumin is huge. So there's no reason to run these solutes because glucose is a complex carb, too large to pass. Glucose is a protein. Albumin is a simple sugar. None of these really make a lot of sense. We know glucose is a simple sugar. Glucose is not a protein. Albumin is a protein. So just by process of elimination, we could click the last one. But we do know, based on this 6-carbon sugar, that's going to be huge. And albumin is even larger. So we've got the two big dogs, albumin and glucose. They're not going to go anywhere. So it's dispense. So let's click the 50. Let's see if we can get to some sodium chloride moving along. I forgot to flush those from earlier. So, but anyway, 9. So we're going to put 9 again on the left side, deionized on the right, and we're going to go ahead and run the experiment. Now notice, boom, we get movement right away. So we increase the pore size, and now we see movement of sodium chloride. So as the timer goes down, it says we were able to reach equilibrium in 10 minutes. Again, you want to record your data. Go back up and next. And again, some of these we were able to do you know, as you do these, you get the hang of what's going on. So they do become repetitive in some respect in that way. So so anyway, now it's telling us to flush and then flush again. Now it wants us to bump up the amount. So we're going to increase how much sodium chloride is in the left beaker and dispense it. We're going to deionize water, the right beaker, and then select start. Nine and 9. So we reached equilibrium extremely fast. Was it the same speed, 11 minutes, so maybe just a hair longer because we did have more product to move. So that makes sense. You double the amount of stuff that needs to move. It does take a little longer. Now, do we double the amount of time? No, we didn't see 10 minutes bumping up to 20 minutes. It just went up another minute is all. So we had just a little boost in the amount of time that it took. And again, it gives us diffusion rate. So that's really what we're analyzing, the rate of diffusion. Took 11 minutes. How many millimoles per second we're able to move? Okay. So that takes you through some of the basics of these PhysioEx. They continue to ask you, you know, move a few more around. I'm not going to. I don't want to spoil too much of the fun that you're going to have later by doing these on your own. But at the very end, so as we go through, I'm just going to click next to get us through the end of the experiment. There we go. And then it'll say, congratulations, you've completed the experiment. Then you click submit and then submit again. And then it'll ask you some post-lab questions. And if you want to view your experimental results, it allows you to do that. But it is the effect of increasing the concentration, decrease the rate of diffusion maybe a little bit. Rate of diffusion, urea diffuse slower. Again, I don't want to ruin the surprises, so you want to answer those, submit those, and I'll ask you a few more kind of short answer type questions. And hit submit, and then it'll give you a page with all of your results. Now, if you click printable version, enter your name, it basically pulls up the exact same thing, but it gives you a print button and it'll put your name in there. Now, if you click print, it'll pull up your regular print screen. Now, notice I have over in my destination, instead of a printer destination, I have save to Google Drive, or save as PDF. So if you go ahead and save that as a PDF, click save, it'll ask you where you want to put it. So I'm just going to put it in documents, PhysioEx exercise activity 1.1, and it saves it right to my computer. So that lab report, along with the review questions, both can be submitted when you go into Blackboard. Now let's go back to your Blackboard for just a minute here. If I go to course documents, and again, we'll do this, I'll show you all this when we introduce things, but there's a nervous system competency. And then under practice, and again, we'll go through all this together. There's a Dropbox for the PhysioEx lab assignment. So that's something that we'll take a look at as well. So anyhow, I really just wanted to give you an idea of first off how to access PhysioEx, um, um, how to run a basic activity, how to go through it. And again, if you have questions, I'm always available to answer them. My office hours will be through the Zoom room, so if we can meet live. Again, I know we're not meeting this semester live in class, so anyway, I just wanted to go through that, the basics of running the PhysioEx.